I'm gonna see if they today. Just really? No, that's not right. Everyone has their own takes on how you should play this thing. And
yeah, these songs where there isn't like an official.
well, there is an official, but you always have to pay money for it, and I'm like, I'm not paying money for anything if I can help it. It's
Don't be like me. Pay money to us for donations.
where is that? You go through everything to try to find out how to get it, and people are like, oh wait, turn your guitar down an entire step, and do that instead. Here, or wait, play it like this. I'm like, oh god, really?
It's like if you use, it's like these are the notes if you guitar is tuned differently. It's like, well then those are just the wrong notes, aren't they?
Yeah, E, but if I drop E, it goes to a D, so it'd be. That sucks. Oh well. I thought I had a version that was like really perfect for it. I'm not gonna play this. I'll just say I'm a campfire guitarist. Why not? Oh my god, what are you making me do here? Ultimate Guitar makes you like do like homework before you can play anything. I hate this.
There are a lot of ads on these pages.
There are so many ads on this page. How did they make it work?
I have to admit, as I gotten older, I'm more and more willing to pay for things, and realizing that my I think this was actually
You start realizing, but I mean, when you're young, your time is worth less money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think it was actually Nick from Samurai Punk who convinced me. Who I remember as the person who convinced me of this. But your time is worth money, and doing things that save you time or annoyance is worth it.
Sometimes there's a certain amount of like satisfaction out of doing something for yourself rather than paying money for it.
Yeah.
Which is a different thing. But yeah, in terms of I mean that's why whatever video streaming services and music streaming services took off as opposed to piracy because now of course they're messing up that calculation because they're making it less and less convenient by not having the content you want, and piracy starts looking more and more.
Music, I still feel.
Music is still good.
I'm still willing to pay for my music streaming provider.
And partially that's because the music is so consolidated.
Yeah, they got it to it was
That,
music. Like you sign up to a music streaming service, or one of the big music streaming services, and they have. Well, this depends how esoteric your musical tastes are.
Pretty much, you can rely that they pretty much have everything you want.
Whereas with video streaming, it's like, oh no, and this has gotten worse and worse, is that you have to...
Everybody's got their own...
And you end up paying more than a Canadian cable package.
Yeah, like if every music label had their own music streaming service. And also with music streaming, most of them are not mutually exclusive. Like the same song will be available on Spotify and Apple Music and different places. Whereas with movie streaming, a lot of the time it's like, oh, you have to go to, if you want whatever, the James Bond movies, it's on this service. If you want whatever, Star Trek, it's on this service. If you want.
And it's not and like I think Mikey was complaining about this earlier, how if it's if it's in one country for music streaming, it's everywhere. But for video streaming, it's different streaming providers.
It's a whole. I love talking with my brother about. He's like, oh man, you should check out this show. He lives in the States, and he'll be like, oh, it's on Netflix or whatever. And it's like, no, it's not. It's not on here. Is it on whatever? Hoopla. And he's like, "What the hell's Hoopla?" Like that's one of our video streaming services that goes through the library. It's you're quite good actually.
I was unaware of it because in the era of video streaming, I have not lived in Canada very much, and
Yeah.
it's kind of a weird thing moving back to your own country and there being a bunch of things that you don't know how they work in your, like, as a country you grew up in, but you don't understand how it works in.
You can never come home. That's
Yeah.
But yeah, the my favorite thing is when they have like when there'll be like a movie series, and for whatever stupid reason they only have like 2 and 4. And it's like, who made that deal? Like, what executive at Netflix or whatever made that deal to only get the 2 and like the 2 and the 4, and not, because like if I want to watch the series, I want to watch the whole
Yeah.
thing. It's like that was just a bad deal. Like you might as well have not paid whatever licensing fee you paid to get the 2 and the 4, because without the full set, it's not attractive to watch.
I think unfortunately that it has been the practice in the licensing world that they think they can make more money by slicing and dicing the rights every which way, and because it might be a movie, like they might all be in the same series, but it could have been different legal structures,
Different distributors.
different production house. I don't know how the film industry works.
But it is interesting the way, like, and of course the big strikes that were just going on. A lot of what they were talking about was to do with streaming revenue, because back when the last negotiations happened, all these movie studios were like, well, streaming, who knows what it could be in the future. We can't, and then it turns out, and then especially, during the pandemic, all this stuff, streaming revenue took off, and it was not covered, it's not covered under the previous agreements in terms of residuals and stuff. Because it's like, oh, this is a brand new thing. It's not covered under the previous agreements, so we're just going to give you no money. That seems fair, right?
The last time there was a strike, I think the last time both the screen actors and the screenwriters were on strike at the same time was in 1960, and it was they were striking about profiting, about getting a share for when movies were shown on television, because television was the
Same
new
deal, yeah.
the new disruptive technology.
And Ronald Reagan, I think, was the president of the Screen Actors Guild at that point.
Yes.
Wow.
Which, people forget that he was an actor, unless you remember the line from Back to the Future.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
But it's the license, the world of licensing stuff. It's that thing where it's like, why couldn't one company just own everything?
Yeah.
And then the
They're
licensing
trying.
will be so much simpler.
They are certainly trying.
Yeah.
It's kind of an issue on PC gaming where it's like Steam is where you buy everything, but it's also where you DRM it. So it's just like they've
Right.
got everything, and then nobody can come in and kind of change that industry because everybody's kind of entrenched. And you have Epic, who don't have a great product, but they're the only ones really trying to compete.
But
Yeah.
it's definitely it's a tricky, it's this like weird tricky problem that it's sort of it's like an own goal thing where it's like, this doesn't have to be a problem. We have money, they have the product, they want to sell us the product, we want to give them the money for the product, but there's just all this like stuff in between that makes it not work properly, when it's just like, there's got to be a solution to this. There's so many layers of interlocking legal
It unfortunately is a common
agreements.
problem in human activity,
Yeah.
where an outcome would be beneficial to the group as a whole, but there are people who benefit from the existing system who are in a position to resist change to the system.
But it's weird though, because like with streaming, I don't even know. Like, I don't feel like a lot of these companies even want to run their own streaming service. They just feel like they have to.
Like Disney's lost hundreds of millions of dollars, it sounds like, so far on this whole project.
On streaming?
On the Disney Plus project.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. That it's been one of these things where they're like, well, we're going to make a ton of cash off this. It's like, well, you could, but the only way to make okay, so this is my new media class talking. The idea that busting off cable by saying we're going to take everything back in house with us and get people to pay for that stuff to begin with is you have to approach the amount of material that you have, right? The amount of like shows and everything, also based on you have to base how much you're charging for the size of that catalog in a way, because you're basically saying if you want to subscribe to Disney Plus and watch all of this stuff, well, we have it all. Like, we have everything that you need. But the more we keep adding to the system, the bigger the system has to get. And that means that we have to be able to maintain that, which means we need more subscribers. If we can't get more subscribers, because eventually we run out of subscribers, we keep making more crap, then you don't have a way to really pay for all that. That's one thing. There's also that idea of everybody in a cable setup was subsidizing everybody else. And so everybody had cable. You're paying $150 for cable, which was egregious per month. Like, we're paying so much money for so many channels because you thought you wanted the choice, and you're paying for everybody else's access to all their channels as well. And then everybody splits that up from there. Plus, then you have ads on top of that.
Yeah.
And that's why we're seeing this resurgence of ads into streaming categories or into streaming services. And that's why it's like the aim is to try to win people over to your service. I guess you could say it's kind of like the Gillette razor model, in that it's like if we can get people onto watching Disney Plus and they only want to spend money on one streaming service, then once we've got them, we can just kind of keep ramping up the price of Disney Plus, hopefully to a point where it's actually a sustainable product. Or because it's part of the larger Disney infrastructure, that other things will subsidize Disney Plus for a while too. It's the idea of like, make the shows because they'll get them excited enough to buy the merch and to go to Disney World and to participate in the other things, right? I don't know where all that shakes out ultimately. Like I think we knew going into cable cutting that we were going to have a few good years where like Netflix was going to have everything and it was going to cost me $10 a month instead of $150. And then we knew at some point that as everyone started adding on more and more streaming services, we have all this great content siloed into these individual spaces, like they were on the channels. We're all siloed into all these different channels that we had to subscribe to all those channels in order to watch stuff. And now we're back in that same boat, and it didn't take long to get there.
Hey, Sarah, can you dig down on the shelf, the very left-hand side behind the chair? We should have cooler dice than D6s.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just in the forbidden zone.
But we've been in the era where companies have been like, they all want to be the biggest streaming service. Like there's an element of power in this
Absolutely.
that you want to be in. Like you do not want to be. These companies want to dictate the terms. They don't want Netflix calling like if you're a movie studio, you want to call the shots. Or you're a movie studio executive, you want to call the shots. You don't want to have to do what Netflix tells you to do.
Absolutely.
And so companies have been fighting for share of the market, hoping that if they're big enough, some of the smaller who ends up smaller ends out of business. But there's also an effect that some of the companies involved, they're not trying to make money on streaming. Like Apple and Amazon, I think, are the two examples of this. Apple, Prime is so you spend more money on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's not to make money off streaming. And Apple is something maybe not the same, but it is an exercise in brand. A lot of these are exercises in brand management.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, yeah, like in a lot of ways, it's in some ways it's actually like a trap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, whatever NBC or something looks at Amazon and Apple, and they're like, man, they've got this huge catalog. They've got all these subscribers. They must be pulling in the money.
Yeah.
We got to get in on this. Not realizing that they aren't making any money on this stuff, but they're doing it for other reasons.
Yeah.
And then NBC is like, oh no, we're spending millions and millions of dollars on infrastructure, and nobody, people aren't happy, and this is not actually a good product. This is
Yeah.
not actually a good thing. It's like YouTube. Like many people have tried to be, the new YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
Have tried to be video sharing service. I know because we always get like contacted like, hey, our new service Vololubaloo
Yeah.
is looking for new people.
It's like, that's a catchy name, but I don't think we're gonna.
Yeah, what's the URL of that? Yeah.
How do you spell that?
But they don't realize, like, YouTube I don't know what it is then, but I know for the very long time, and I suspect still, YouTube doesn't make any money. They exist, they exist and they can operate because Google owns a ton of fiber backbone, and so their bandwidth is ridiculously cheap in comparison to most people.
Yeah.
And also, it's in Google's best interests to basically have an effective, a very strong control over online video. It means that if they want to push a video standard, when they wanted to push VP8 or VP9 as the new video thing,
Yeah.
they go, Chrome has VP9 in it. Oh look, every video on YouTube now operates that. Maybe everybody should start making hardware that encodes it as well. Like,
Yeah.
they've got it's worth a big chunk of money for them to just be in the control position
They
in
kind
the
of have
industry.
they have the bully pulpit in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And YouTube itself doesn't need to, they run tons of ads and everything, but that's mostly to make it so that the bleed is not so bad as it would be otherwise.
Google is an advertising company,
Right.
and YouTube is a place to show ads.
The amount of bandwidth and the amount of storage space that YouTube requires is so completely out of whack that it's nobody else can really compete. And anytime somebody sees YouTube and goes, oh man, they must be making so much money, we should do that too, and then they tried it and they go like, oh I see.
The network effects for something like YouTube with user-generated content is a bit different than when you're distributing
Right.
more exclusive or content. But I do want to say I do like Nebula.
Yeah.
I
Me too.
find like
that kind of
I'm happy to pay for a Nebula subscription, and the content the creators I was watching on YouTube, if they're showing it on Nebula, I'm happy to play to watch things there and not have to deal with all the stuff that we love about YouTube.
Yeah, and it's if you can, and there's a couple of people who have made it, Dropout
Dropout's good.
seems to be able, but that is a hard road to go.
We love YouTube on the VST.
Yeah.
And we put up dozens of hours worth of content on YouTube every week, Blowing Ready Run. When I say we, I mean Heather.
Yes.
Yeah.
And axe hand in automated fashions.
Yeah.
But it's a very important thing, and there's no way that we could pay that we could afford the space and bandwidth that would be required to serve that all ourselves. So
We do make too much stuff.
It isn't 2003 anymore.
Yeah.